Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Crowd Sessions, Crowdsourcing, and Price Challenge for Sustainability. We're all excited to see you here with us today, and I would love to introduce you to our founder and CEO, Epi Ludwig.
Hi, everyone. My name is Epi Ludwig, and I'm the founder and CEO of Crowdsourced Week and World Awards. Welcome, everybody here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Looking for a great, exciting ride tonight with great speakers we have. Let me just give you a quick, brief history about Crowdsourced Week and Bold and what we've been doing for the past 7 years. And besides doing all these conferences for good 7 years in over 30 countries and 4 continents until late 2019, our focus has shifted with our services for crowdsourced platforms and solutions, plus virtual round tables like these, staying true to our core mission by powering breakthroughs together with our partners. Bold is our annual innovation program that we launched together with H-Farm 3 years back. And H-Farm is one of the most unique and one of the largest innovation hubs in Europe and the world. With over 20 categories, this program is better known as the Oscars for digital industries. You can find out more on our website at bold-awards and submit your project or your company if you feel that is a category for yourself. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for attending our 4th crowd session of this year so far. We've been doing these sessions every 2 weeks. We have crowd sessions and Bold series. And today's topic is about crowdsourced innovation and prize challenges for sustainability. What to expect today? We have 5 guests from the open innovation and prize challenge field. Christian Cotticini, great friend and partner. He's a CEO at HereX. Sarah Rossini, Ideas crowdsourcing platform manager at NL Group, all the way from Italy. Kristen Jordan, she's the director of innovation and professionals at Bright Ideas. David Simos Brown, CEO at 100% Open, all the way from UK, and Tim Bernstein, CEO at Yet2 from US. For 1 good hour and a half, we'll go through Christian's presentations and cover the insights and the journey of a HereX with the crowdsourced innovation. Why is this important now? How can anyone become an innovator, and much, much more. So be prepared to take a lot of notes. I'm looking forward to that presentation. And after the Christian's presentation, we'll be moderating the panel where Christian will be asking the panelists to introduce themselves and introduce also the project and sustainability and give us their insights. So that will run about 5 to 7 minutes for each presenter. A little housekeeping here before we get started. Any questions you have, please put them on a chat below, the chat box below. And Clive Rafael, who's one of our associates, will be moderating all the questions that will bring them to Christian's attention during the panel. Some rules of engagement here before we get started. No negativity here, please. There is so much negativity out there. We want to focus on the positive things. We're all here to learn and be professionals and network. So let's just be positive. Feel free to share any of your profiles and connect with others on the chat. We want you to maximize your time. So please connect with each other, but no promotion materials. At the end, feel free to stick around for a chat with each other. We want to dedicate some good ample time for networking. And so for that, I like to get things started with some of the things that I have prepared before I introduce Christian for his presentation. So as I mentioned, these crowd sessions or Bold series, we do it every 2 weeks here at Crowdsourcing Week. And I'm really happy that we have this, we're able to put this group of smart people that are going to share some great insights. But let's talk a little bit about Crowdsourcing Week and the journey and what we're doing here. So every year at Crowdsourcing Week, we focus around the topics and the themes of the year. And this year's theme is about unlocking human potential. And one of the ways that we looked at this unlocking human potential at Crowdsourcing Week for this year is that it relates to the events that are happening today and also the time that we're spending in front of our desktops and laptops, being more productive in this world of the World Wide Web and not using the internet just for the entertainment and the e-commerce, so on and so forth. So we're really excited that we had this theme and all of the events that we do in the Crowdsourcing Week and Bold series, we focus around like how we can build this level of productivity with crowdsourcing. Also about Bold, when we came back together with H Farm about 3.5 years ago, we wanted to create something very unique that resonates with a lot of the companies in the digital space, and also with the people who are working in the larger companies or smaller companies or individuals who work on their own projects. So we created this badge of boldness, and with this, we're really excited that now we're in the third year. This is the third edition with 20 categories. So check us out on that link that I mentioned before. As we've been doing and going through this journey for a good 7 years at Crowdsourced Week, we thought it would be great also to bring the visual aspect of the ecosystem that has been created over the years. And this ecosystem is just going to grow. This is a bit of the old diagram, and the new one that's coming up very soon. We're putting some good efforts in terms of creating more of the IP as we go in our journey. But you can see this ecosystem. It's quite dynamic and is changing. And there are many reasons why now it's changing in a bigger way. And I'll explain that a little bit. So when this first wave of crowdsourced or marketplaces or whatever you want to call it started, it was during the global recession in 2007 to 2009. This is where you have the Kickstarters and Indigos of the world. This is where they pioneered with these type of models, this business model, the marketplace that created a value for the marketplace. However, a lot of these platforms out there, they've been focused a lot around the bringing a value to either one side, or sometimes trying to bring both. But obviously, what we found as in this journey, we found that a lot of these platforms there are not focused so much around like designing the real purpose for people to join these platforms. And so every time we've been asked about these world of technologies and how this ecosystem is playing out, we brought this 5 pieces of the crowd economy better to understand, but also how entrepreneurs and how leaders in a bigger corporation can start to think about technology that they're designing in order to have the most participation for the productivity that they're looking for. So it's all about the 5 piece that we think is very valuable for companies and people who wants to be part of this ecosystem. Now, I mentioned about that in 2007, 2009, this global recession happened and we had the first wave. Now, what we're seeing is really interesting is that we are seeing that the marketplaces are evolving, folks around niches, and I think this is where it's going to completely go to a much bigger direction, including with the advancement of technologies that we already have today and its development. I think the opportunity is going to be massive, and so one of the things that I start to see, I also start to see the commitment behind the entrepreneurs and the leaders who are behind these type of marketplaces is much different than what it was 10 years ago or so. Also, what we're seeing now, we're also seeing a completely different shift, like working from home has become a norm. People are spending a lot more time on the internet. Obviously, we are now moving more into the future where this download mindset is moving towards more like an upload mindset, I call it. And of course, this is something that it's hard to imagine, but, if you look at today, we are pretty much like doubling our knowledge, collective knowledge every 12 hours. And we're in that exponential curve where pretty much it's nonstop now, and things are just going to get bigger and bolder. But I also like to remind everybody that, as the things are get bigger and bolder, we also need to figure out like also what is about the human element that we need to make sure that we have to keep it around. Otherwise, we're going to lose that human touch. So everybody's talking about the AI and the future of robotics, but I want to also make sure that the crowdsourcing does not just help the AI and robotics and the technology, but also helps the human, helps empower human. I think we have this obligation and duty to bring these elements in crowdsourcing space. I believe that 2021 onwards is about the Internet of Skills. We're starting to see a lot of this a shift in terms of the how people are using the internet, how people are being immersed in the internet, and I think these digital skills are just starting to being embraced by a lot of individuals. And today, we have it's no longer an option. It's something that we need to make sure that we are being part of it, and the ecosystem now is there. And of course, one of the things that I want to just mention before I get and I hand over this to Christian is that part of the things is also about being part of the community. So crowdsourcing, it's not just about the getting your things up, but being part of this empowered community. So one of the things that what we decided to do a month ago, we thought would be nice to bring a good ebook downloadables, which you can grab the link here where our team member will share the link, where you can get the download about the how to build your own communities of innovators, crowdsourcing price challenges. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Christian here with his presentation, and looking forward to hearing your insights, Christian. It's always something new that I'm learning from you. So please help me welcome Christian. Christian, are you there?
I'm here.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Epi. Thanks for that intro, and really excited to be here today. And I really like this topic, sustainability. I think this is something that's really close to my heart. I think there's 7.5 billion people on the planet now, and the environment and the world is starting to, really feel the consequences of what we've been doing for the last few hundred years. And I think that we're now the generation that's going to face sustainability as a consequential act. And now's the time that we need to address this. So this is very important for me, and I'm happy to participate in this. I'll mention a little bit about HeroX, but what I'd like to do today is really widen out the scope a little bit, and talk about some of the bigger issues and some of the bigger trends and some big ideas that I think will contribute to the panelists' discussion and the Q&A that we do later in the session. So hopefully you guys will find that interesting. So HeroX, I co-founded HeroX as my fourth startup because I really believe in the power of people, and the power of people to innovate. If you think about what fundamentally differentiates us from all the other species on the planet, it's our ability to imagine, it's our ability to create. We are tool makers, we're innovators. If you look at the world around you and everything we have, it's all been created by us. And we've done an amazing job at it. And in the last 100 years or so, we've created an unprecedented era of peace and stability, and rising quality of living by almost every standard imaginable. And yet, this world has no shortage of problems. We have a lot of problems that we are dealing with. And that's something that we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited about it. So I'd like to start with just, again, widening up the scope a bit. And Kate Raworth, if you haven't seen her TED Talk, she did in 2018, I highly recommend that you do it. She was an economics student in Oxford, and she always wondered why there was such a emphasis on growth as the main measure in economics. This is actually a chart from a textbook, from an economics textbook. And we've all seen these charts, these curves, from the left to the right, keep on going higher and higher. And what we learn is that, growing higher, that growth is good, and anything else is bad. And the problem is we live in a finite world. We live in a finite planet. We have finite resources. And so it doesn't, if you really just think it through, it doesn't end well if we're all incentivized to keep this thing ticking upwards, and we're not conscious of the consequences. So she introduced a model that I really love, which is this one right here, which is often called the circular economy or the donut economy. And again, watch the TED Talk, it's really great. But the point that she makes is that we've got to live in this donut here. This is where we are sustainable. There's a ceiling above us, which we can easily break. And I think that's unquestionable at this point. And we don't want to break it. And we're obviously already stressing it out. And we, by many measures, we measure our success as a species and as a society by the quality of our social foundations and social institutions. And so we want those to rise up, and we want to maintain sustainability in our environment. And this is a really great model, and it's a model that we have to adopt in this generation, or there's going to be some pretty big consequences. And, I don't know that we want to be the generation that has to, confront that. So, that's something that I feel really, really strong about. And I'm going to keep on going, but I'd love to hear the panelists' thoughts and ideas about this as well. Now, another idea I wanted to bring up was just highlight some organizational changes that are happening for the positive that contribute and synergize with crowdsourcing. So one of the big ones is the movement towards B Corps. And for those that don't know what a B Corp is, well, a traditional company is called a C Corp, and C Corp exists for the benefit of its shareholders, almost exclusively. Their job is to maximize shareholder value. And if any of you guys have heard of a shareholder lawsuit, well, it turns out that C Corps are mandated to generate shareholder value, and it's legally binding. So if the management of a company isn't maximizing shareholder value, they can get sued by their shareholders. And if you don't think that causes a real focus, a myopic focus in these companies, you'd be wrong. That pressure is there, especially in public companies, especially in large companies. Activists, investors, activist shareholders have proven time and time again that they can apply their weight. Private equity is an example of that. And not all private equity is bad, but that's that dynamic. So a B Corp allows a company in their articles of incorporation to include a social mission, and they then have a dual mandate, which is to support their social mission as well as corporate profits. And I believe that B Corps are the future. I believe if you go back to the sustainability model and think it through, B Corps are really the clear aligned organization for this new reality. And I believe in the future, people are going to look back at C Corps like they look back at cigarettes. It's something that was popular for a while, but just a really bad idea. And there's a lot of great stats about B Corp adoption. A lot of companies are transitioning to B Corps. HeroX founded as a B Corp. In fact, we incorporated the company in Delaware the day that Delaware passed their B Corp legislation as a public benefit company. And that's something I'm very proud of. And I think that's something very, very important. And this has really been being driven by changing sentiment for consumers, especially the millennials and the Gen Zs, what I like to call the digital natives, that they're very conscious consumers. Of course, anybody of energy, any generation can be a conscious consumer, but there's a real mass awareness there where how a company conducts itself is important. The social values the company represents is important. And I believe that that movement is just going to continue. And organizations are already reacting, and that's a very good thing. The B Corp is a really important element and a trend that's that I really believe in. So I just wanted to mention that a little bit. Another big trend in organizations, of course, is using open innovation and open ecosystems and crowdsourcing to drive innovation. And of course, this is you know, a trend that we're going to talk about a lot. The panelists are all experts in this area, and I believe that this is you know, the future for organizations of almost all shapes and sizes, including public sector organizations, governments, as well as private companies. And the beauty of the free market, because I believe in the free market, it's a good model, is the free market allows us to adapt, and better models survive. Better models become adopted quickly, because if you don't adopt superior and better models, you're going to fall behind and eventually perish. So the idea of bringing, mixing internal innovation and external innovation, I think is an idea that's just heading to mainstream now. Some of you may have already seen this diagram. This is a bad diagram. I drew it. I'm not a designer, but it hammers the point home. And this is actually was inspired by the book Machine Platform Crowd, which is a really good book. That a third of the book talks about crowdsourcing. A third of the book talks about machine learning and AI. So if you really want to understand AI and get past the hype, it's a good primer for that. And a third of the book is about the platform model, which is really about networks, network effects, and why change perfuses so fast. And now that we're all connected to the internet, we're all connected to each other, and more of our devices and objects and things are all connected at the same time, and that drives exponential curves. It's often called exponential technology. And platforms are the way that you convert a pipeline, a traditional company of a pipeline, into a network optimized structure. And so that's, I highly recommend reading that. But what this diagram really shows is the fact that organizations, to be competitive, need to focus on collaboration and opening things up, because that's the world we live in. We live in a connected world. And so organizations are now the nexus of an ecosystem, and that's going to be the future. And the primary method of that we call crowdsourcing, but really crowdsourcing is just about us collaborating and using our technology to collaborate more efficiently and at higher scale than ever before. So crowdsourcing is everywhere. I just wanted to share some of these examples here. You know, Taiwan has done crowdsourcing at the government level. And that one I really like is Iceland's new constitution, which was crowdsourced and basically built by feedback from citizens, rather than, you know, the founding fathers getting together, or, you know, hand-picking people who would decide what's best for everybody. This is something that's just really radical in government, by the way, very radical in government, and it's happening. And it's being driven by the fact that, you know, more and more crowdsourcing has become more and more commonplace. And even Elon is doing it. In fact, Elon's done a lot of crowdsourcing. Hyperloop is effectively a crowdsourced industry that he created by releasing a paper and running an annual prize, innovation prize. And you know, that's just an amazing example of that. And he's recently announced a partnership with X Prize to offer $100 million for a carbon capture solution. which I think is awesome. There's lots of other examples we can talk about, but I think some of these are I've talked about before. Bill Gates, he has a lot of money, and he wants to put it to good use. And one of the challenges that he's dealing with, and yes, that's a jar of poop that he's looking at right there, by the way. He carries it around, at least he used to. He worked with big industry on the sanitation problem, big industry on the infrastructure, but the toilets, the endpoints, if you will, there was no good solution that fit the needs for the developing world. So he used crowdsourcing to solve that problem and came up with some pretty amazing solutions. Many of these have made a significant impact to sanitation solutions in the private sector, in the public sector, and elsewhere. It's a really great example of crowdsourcing working. And so crowdsourcing has just become a mainstream tool. And what we're going to talk about today is how we can use it to create positive social impact and solve the sustainability problem that I've talked about. And one of the things I'd like to announce today, this is actually a pre-announcement, is we're launching a new project called the HeroX Impact Initiative. And the Impact Initiative is our, and it's been in the works for a while, we're offering the HeroX platform to qualified nonprofits pro bono. So basically, what we want to do at HeroX is we're doing a lot of great work in the commercial space. We're doing a lot of great work in public sector. And we've done a lot of great work in nonprofit space. But what we're moving now to is a platform where we're going to help nonprofits find their tribe, their army of change, and really make that possible for them by allowing them to use the platform pro bono and building a network of resources that they can use to make crowdsourcing a reliable tool for them. And we think that crowdsourcing is going to be a game changer in philanthropy and is going to solve a lot of the problems that exist right now in nonprofits, in the nonprofit ecosystem, and in how philanthropy is done. We're going to be building that with a lot of partners and bring a lot of other organizations to add to that capability, and crowdsourcing as well, helping organizations with their crowdsourcing projects by crowdsourcing for them. So I'm really excited about that. And if you're interested in that, go to HeroX and register for our newsletter, and stay tuned because we'll have a lot of announcements for that. And this is a pre-announcement that you guys are the first people that we've talked about this outside the company, but stay tuned for the official announcement on the Impact Initiative. That's something that I really care about, and I think it's really important. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in my opening. So I'd love to open it up to panelists to add colored commentary, ask questions, etc., as well as any questions that we've got from others as well. So with that, I'm going to see if we have any questions. Or anybody who wants to, any of the panelists want to add to that?
I guess I would just chime in, Christian. Yet2's been social good missions for probably a couple of years now, and building on our already the groundwork already for our partnership. We'd love to contribute profits. That's
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And any thoughts about sustainability in general that you wanted to add to the topic? And panelists, great to turn your video on when you talk so people can put a name to a face.
Christian, I think it's a really relevant topic. I was recently in a discussion with actually some classmates talking about ESG and how that's a discussion that's very popular right now with corporations. And we were talking about kind of the difference between the purpose of the corporation. So the purpose with a capital P versus, just the purpose of delivering back to shareholders. And really, I think that the fact that the crowd is sort of demanding this now, that it's not, because of the availability of information, because of the availability of reviews, things that you pointed out, it's something that's kind of being forced on corporations. And so I think this is a great time with that sort of groundswell coming the general public, also combining it with this discussion around ESG. I think it's an important discussion to see where these C Corps are going as well, in addition to what's happening with B Corps and impact investing and all kinds of things that are new in the space. So I think it's a perfect time to be having this dialogue.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you, Kristen, for sharing that. David, I think you wanted to add?
Thanks, Christian. Yes, I love the idea of the impact initiative. It's really exciting, and I'd love to get involved. We're seeing that over half our briefs now, innovation briefs, have some kind of sustainability component. So it's where the game is, which is really, well, about time too. You could say. I hope this will not be an either or in the future. I hope that as organizations become more open and more accountable, therefore, to their publics, then there is no alternative other than to work with them. And it's a case of what the 19th century industrialists used to call enlightened self-interest. So it's not, do I make money or do I do good? Because that's, a hard question to answer. It is, how do I make money by doing good, or vice versa? Yeah, congratulations on the initiative. Can't wait to see what you make of it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. This isn't even really altruistic. If and it's right in front of us now. If you look at the consequences for the earth and what we're seeing and the awareness, it's obvious that if we're not careful, we're going to leave the world in a bad place. And I can't believe that anybody loves money so much that they're going to wall themselves up, in a bubble and watch the world burn, and that's their goal. They're going to be happy about that. This pandemic has hit us, and unfortunately, we've had a lot of loss. A lot of people have faced a lot of loss, and a lot of people have passed because of this pandemic. And I know a lot of people who have lost loved ones. I've talked to them, and watched the news and heard those stories. You don't hear people who are facing death talk about their investment account, or their bank balance, or their corporate escapades, or their smartphones. They want to talk to their loved ones. They want to connect to the humans around them. That's the way we're all fundamentally wired. And I think that in today's rat race society, we sometimes disconnect with that, but that just means we're disconnecting with ourselves. So I believe just it's fundamental human nature. And I'll add one other thing about technology, and this is Peter Diamandis, the co-founder of HeroX and the founder of X Prize, and a well-known speaker and futurist who loves technology. We've joked that we're trending towards Star Trek, right? Like with this technology that's coming, we're trending towards Star Trek, and Star Trek being this almost utopian society of egalitarianism, et cetera, if you're a Star Trek fan. But we're also trending towards 1984, right? And technology has the ability to democratize, and technology has the ability to centralize. And the media has recently gotten very negative on technology, and there's this risk that we associate technology with all the evils of the world and not realize that it's technology that saved us. Every time we've been threatened as a species by something, we have solved it with creativity, innovation, and invention, also known as technology. And so technology isn't inherently evil. Why I started HeroX and why I'm an entrepreneur is an understanding that we can all be part of the solution, and use technology and use innovation to solve problems instead of just making more money. And I think that's a really important point. Any other comments or questions that people would like to bring in? Epi.
I think I'd like to bring this. So obviously we need to also be very careful about the how easily we can be programmed when we are being disconnected from these five senses. And I think, the technology, yes, it's very important. It's changed the way how we live and do things and empower people, but also at the same time, we're also seeing that technologies are suppressing people. So we need to be very careful, like how are we using this and whose hands are going to be in. And we need to elevate the collective consciousness. So I think sustainability is not going to be a technology solving the problem. It's going to be the people with elevated collective consciousness who are going to solve that problem. And I think it's time for us to elevate ourselves and not lose our five senses, because the moment we start losing or we get disconnected with those five senses, we ended up being programmed, and being programmed, we do not want to get to that point where we're becoming an AI versus being a human. So having that human element is super important in sustainability, and I'm all for it, but I also need to be very careful in whose hands the technology is being played out.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. The thing that I think we've forgotten, especially in mainstream media, is that, like I said, humans, we're tool makers. We build things, we create things to make our lives easier. Way back in history, if a hunter needed to hunt, they'd make a spear from a stick, right? They'd make a blade from a piece of stone. That's the fundamental underlying principle of technology. You want to make your life better, you invent something, or you purchase an invention from another person in exchange for some money. That's what makes our world work. But all of these tools, all these technologies, they're there to serve us, not us to serve them. And I think that's what's been lost a little bit. And maybe regulations needed to help level the playing field, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of social issues around technology that I'm concerned about. But where we need to get back to is that we are tool makers, and they're the tools, and they're there to enhance our lives, and each person can choose how they want their lives enhanced. If you love working with wood, you're going to buy really nice woodworking tools. Somebody else couldn't care less about woodworking tools. But that's fundamentally where we are with technology, and we need to kind of get back there to understanding that technology is here to enhance our lives, not to enslave us, not to manipulate us. I think that's a real problem.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, so that's great. Shall we get started with the panelists here? I think the first one we got to Sarah. Should we get Sarah first? Fantastic. Sarah, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm fine. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and join you into this very interesting panel. And thank you very much, Christian, for your insights and your presentation. And I just wanted to ask that, of course, nowadays sustainability is central, and it should be central for companies, and they should integrate sustainability into their business. So I'm going to share with you a little of what I do at Enel and my crowdsourcing experience. Here we are. Okay. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. Okay. So I work at Enel. Enel is a multinational energy company, and I work there since, I think it is 8 years. And in 2016, I joined the innovation function, where I've been asked to develop a crowdsourcing platform. So it is called openinnovability.com. I will tell you a little bit more later about that. So this is Enel framework. So this is our business. We work along the value chain of the energy sector, and we can say that we are leading the energy transition. So we are the world's largest player in renewable generation. We are the first private network operator, and we have about 70 million customers. And as you know, of course, we are in a leading situation now, so in a leading position. But we know that if we want to be in the same situation in the next years, we need to innovate, because we need to be sustainable. And we coined this new word. It is innovability, because we know that innovation and sustainability are strictly connected. So you cannot be sustainable if you don't innovate. It's a kind of natural process, if you think about that. So if you want to evolve, you need to survive. In order to survive, you need to be sustainable, and to be sustainable, you need to innovate, because, as you know, today we are not the same as we were 100 years ago. How we do that? We are a very big company, so we could have all the skills and the people inside the company, and we have brilliant people working at Enel, but we leverage on internal and external stakeholders to innovate with us. And we can leverage on an ecosystem that counts more than 500,000 people, that could be startups, industrial partners, our colleagues from Enel, of course, our suppliers. And this is why we developed openinnovability.com, that could be seen like a digital open door to connect our business to that ecosystem. So to give to the ecosystem a door where they can enter our innovation process. Actually, our process starts from the strategic plan, okay, which drives the needs and the challenges that we usually publish at openinnovability.com. And then we collect solutions. We select the best one, we scale them up and create value. We create shared value, because for us, sustainability equals value. Sustainability means value for us. So Open Innovability was born 3.5 years ago. We experimented crowdsourcing before, innovative solution crowdsourcing. So we use we leverage on that ecosystem that you saw in order to get new eyes, okay, to see at the problem and get solution that, you know, when you are always working on the same field, sometimes you lose the perception on what is going on around, and this helps us having new eyes, new thinking outside of the box sometimes too. So we post more than 150 challenges. We collected solutions from more than 100 countries. We received more than 7,000 proposals, and also thanks to collaborations with other crowdsourcing platforms, we can count on a network of more than 500,000 people. Last but not least, I just want to share a few examples of challenges that we run. This is why we called innovability, because for us, innovability is the tool, but sustainability is the target. So in the first one, so we run a challenge with which we were looking for solutions aimed at integrated agrozoological activities into our photovoltaic power plants. So we had a reward at the beginning that was $10,000, and we raised it to 18,000 as a total, because we wanted to reward more and them was about new vegetables or new fauna that we can integrate under the shadow, you know, the PV panels. Another one was about the wind turbine blades. We wanted to find new methods or new materials that we can generate when the wind turbine blades comes to the end of life, around 20 years it lasts. And this was interesting because we paid the reward, $10,000 to the best proposal, but we start a collaboration with 3 of the solvers that participated into this challenge. So this is one of the strengths of crowdsourcing innovative solution, because you get in contact with new people that are not already in your ecosystem, you know. So these 2 examples are more related to environmental sustainability or circular economy, and others that we have are more related to social or industrial sustainability. So one of them was about a new electric vehicle charging station that has a lower impact into the urban environment. And another one, this is the last one, we were looking for a solution to automate the vegetation data collection, because we wanted to predict how and where to go and trim the vegetation nearby the network infrastructure, in order to save our colleagues' work, okay, because they can better plan that activity. And in this case, the reward wasn't only an economic reward, but it was a collaboration with analysts. So this is helpful, because we also, in this way, we contribute to, let's say, also to growing the economy, because we can get in contact with startups and help them growing, because we work as an industrial partner. So we help them in developing their solutions. So we are not a venture capitalist. venture capital, we are an industrial partner for startup, for small medium enterprises. So this is our approach, our open innovability. And Nasinda, just to close, the important thing is that we integrate the sustainability, the SDGs, into our strategic plan, and we integrate the crowdsourcing into our innovation process. So this is the beginning, but then the winning proposals enter into our process until we develop and scale the projects. So.
Sarah, I think that's really great, and it points to the importance of having an ecosystem around crowdsourcing. You know, it can't just be a challenge or a prize, and it's done, and then you just move on to other things. But ideas need to be nurtured and developed, and entrepreneurs and innovators need support. And you know, why do so many entrepreneurs move to Silicon Valley? Well, because there's an ecosystem there and there's a lot of support, but that needs to be replicated. That type of support needs to be replicated, and we need to create rich and deep ecosystems to support them. So I think that's really great. One question I had for you is, so for the future of crowdsourcing and open innovation, what do you see as the important trends that you'd point to? Where do you think it's going to go? What do you think the challenges are, and what do you think the opportunities are?
Well, good question. I think that in my personal experience, I see that it is in the company, it is a trend that is taking more and more importance. In fact, so we at the beginning we had only a few challenges, but now when the business line realized that there is a real value, because I think that the value is in the relationship, okay? Because at the first time you do that crowdsourcing, okay, and after that you already have some new collaborations, okay, and you can leverage on that. Another point, I think that we could use the crowdsourcing also to analyze where we are going. For example, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were a little worried about that, but we decided to run a few challenges about how can we help our people. So it was only an internal challenge that we run only for our colleagues, and we asked them how can we contribute to help the countries, but also our colleagues during the pandemic. So we wanted to do something, but we couldn't take that decision, let's say, on our own. So we used the crowdsourcing to get proposal, but also to had a kind of sentiment analysis of what they wanted, what our colleagues needed, and from them we realized that they wanted to help, first of all. So who is all right or in a good situation, they wanted to help others, for example. Mm-hmm. So this is something interesting. So using the crowdsourcing of solution and ideas, not only to get solutions, but to analyze what people want and where technology is going, innovation is going.
Great, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
David.
Thank you for your talk, Sarah. I love the idea that you said that sustainability is shared value, and I think that's something I want to pick up on when I talk in a minute. And that really connects with something that Christian was saying earlier about, in effect, together we're stronger and together we're more sustainable. And that is super powerful, I think. So thank you for that. And it's great to learn about NL and all the good stuff you're doing. I'd like a private chat with you afterwards about carbon capture and storage, if I may. I'm a reasonable skeptic about that, so I'd like an expert opinion.
That sounds great. Okay, well, unless we have any other comments, we're going to switch over. David, it's your turn.
Thank you, Christian. So I'm just going to share my screen.
Sarah.
So hopefully you can say a big blue thing now. Super. So my name is David Simos-Brown. Lovely to be here this afternoon. As I mentioned before, about half our briefs, a bit perhaps slightly more, half the jobs we do for our customers are concerning sustainability now. To the extent that some of them, it's just understood that what you're trying to create is a more efficient tool, faster service, a lighter touch, a lighter step on the earth, which is great. So wherever you are, I hope your lockdown, if you're on lockdown, is ending soon, and that your family's keeping well. I'm going to keep this really brief. In fact, the Duke of Edinburgh, who's just died, the Queen's husband, said he was fond of making interesting pronouncements, and he said, well, what the backside cannot endure, the brain cannot absorb. So I'm going to take a leaf out of his book and keep it short. So here is, I think, what the business case for open innovation is, and the root of the power of how we together can change things. So it's no matter who you are, most of the smartest people work for someone else, and that's from Bill Joy 5 or 6 years ago now at Sun Microsystems. That's okay, isn't it? That's interesting, and that's a good thought, because you can access brilliance from around the world, but why would they work for you? And I want to develop a little bit on what Sarah was talking about just now, about shared value. So just a little note about 100% Open. We've been going 12 years now, 13 years almost. And our mission is to connect the suits and the sneakers. So we run projects on behalf of governments, large commercial corporations, charities, environmental organizations, and connect those with innovators, technologies, amazing solutions from around the world. Great time for my sister to call me. I do apologize. Is it still sharing?
Yep, we're good.
Cool. So I want to just touch on what the fundamental idea behind open innovation is, and that is, if you're talking about prizes, which we are today, what is the prize and who gets it? So essentially, we would define open innovation as innovating with partners by sharing the risk and sharing the rewards. And I think often we in business forget that there are at least two sides to this story. So what is the prize for the challenge owner, as well as what is the prize for the innovator? And I think if you look at things in that way, you're going to get more sustainable innovation, sustainable in both senses, in fact. So I want to just run through 2 or 3 cases to bring that alive a little bit. So firstly, Ford. We've run, I think, a really fun series of challenges with Ford, all about city mobility. Now, that has obviously a direct correlation with being greener, a lot of energy wasted in transportation, a lot of frustration generated in mobility, and a lot of a lack of access to resources. So one of the cities we were working in was Detroit, for example. And so we generated a community response to a community problem, I think, with Ford. And we worked in Detroit, New York City, Pittsburgh, Miami, and Grand Rapids. And we started with ethnography to really understand what the issues with mobility were in those cities. So we were able to tailor make the story, the innovation, the challenges. And then we created crowds on the Open IDEO platform, which consisted of residents of the places and also entrepreneurs of the place. So there's a lovely mixed bag of motivations and reasons to act, reasons to participate. And a lot of those are intrinsic motivations, you know, where does my heart lead me? And a lot of them are extrinsic motivations. How much do I make out of this? So to cut a long story short, the involvement of a community in naming and solving its own mobility problems was super successful, and the involvement of the mayor and the what you might call the route to market, as in Ford, was also super successful. So I think the lesson for us there was that there were prizes for everybody. There was a prize for the community, got a better city, prize for innovators, and there were literally prizes for winners. And the prize for Ford was to be involved with the sort of innovation and move their business model into the next century, really, and also generating some profile as well. Okay, so hopefully you can see that slide now. So I'd like to talk a bit about future cities missions. I've got a bit of a cities theme going on.
Sorry, David, we're still on the slide with 2 circles.
Okay, that's no good. There we are. There's some Ford pictures which you missed.
Yeah, I was wondering.
It was real. And I'd like to talk a bit about Future Cities missions now, which it was an initiative of the UK government as part of a soft power strategy. And the idea was to take some of the best entrepreneurs and specialists from the UK out to developing countries around the world. So we've been to, and not so developing countries actually, Malaysia and Singapore, China, etc. And the idea was to look at how international collaboration can create a more sustainable future. And often we've noticed that it takes an outsider to point out the obvious. It takes an outsider to be slightly more credible in terms of a radical solution. So over a series of 5 years, we visited a lot of different exotic places, and because it came with the stamp of the UK government, I think, and because the UK has a reputation for providing interesting ideas, we got to meet a lot of interesting and powerful people. And so the point I wanted to make there was really that the creative benefit of difference across the globe, and that's another something else that crowdsourcing can obviously give you in spades. So in terms of the prizes there, the prize for the UK government was influence and helping out other governments. The prize for innovators was what I call sale and scale. So they were there literally on a mission to sell their stuff. And the prize for all the cities was increasing sustainability locally. Okay. Last mini case study from a totally different marketplace. And I don't know if you know much about private banking or wealth banking, but it hasn't really concerned itself with the world of sustainability, or hadn't hitherto. Neither is it an industry particularly known for being open transparent, yes, but open, no. So for the past 5 years, we've been running the UBS Future of Finance competition, and it's been extremely interesting to watch how the company's attitude to openness has changed over that period, as has changed the attitude of fintech innovators whom we're aiming for. So right early on, I think we were able to use crowdsourcing in this particular case to test the water for want of a better phrase, environmentally sound investment. And it's a way of connecting with people who've already got offers, fintech offers, and people who've got ideas and who are motivated by more than money, but also putting something back. And I think to look at a sort of major global bank like that, really taking the business model of sustainable investment seriously, probably wouldn't happen without openness, without being exposed to the public. So the prize is there in question. Well, the prize for the innovators is essentially relationships with problem owners in the bank, and so there's a mentoring program that goes on as well. And I think the key prize for UBS was an opening up in public, and that's very hard to do simply by communications and advertising. So, so return to that slide for my conclusion, which is what is the size of the prize, really? And when one's thinking of prize challenges, I really like to think about what the prize is for everybody. And if everyone doesn't get a prize, it's less likely to work. So I'm talking about the business model that will drive sustainability forward throughout the globe. And to recap a phrase I said earlier, capitalizing on enlightened self-interest as being the way forward. So I'll quote Hot Chocolate to finish off the talk, which is that everyone's a winner if this is done right. And there's been some very interesting questions in the chat which I haven't got time to address, but thinking about an equitable and open set of business models and collective shared risk and collective shared reward, I think has to be the way, one of the ways in which we can change the way the world is developing, as Christian so eloquently described earlier. That's all I really have time for. So thanks for listening.
All right, thanks, David. Do we have any questions from the panelists or any comments? We have some good questions, and I don't want to save them all for the very end. So you talked a little bit about rewarding all participants. And this is a common question, and I have a strong opinion about this. I'll warn you in advance. But the common question is about crowdsourcing: is there's winners and losers, and that's bad. How do we reward people for participating? So, Dave, do you have any thoughts on that?
I like that question. Thank you very much, Kate, for voicing it. Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit like venture capitalism, that you only ever hear about the winners and the 99 other people there aren't so successful. So it's up to us as crowdsourcing engineers to create value in the journey. So for UBS, all the finalists get coaching and mentoring, and all the entrants get a new relationship with someone influential at the bank. With Ford, I went through all the benefits, and essentially, even though it was structured as a competition, we made the taking part socially beneficial. So there were social benefits for that. So I think you're dead right. In fact, part of me thinks that automatically defaulting to a prize challenge is a narrow strategy anyway. So if you're looking at winners and losers, then you're dead right. So one mitigating strategy is to make sure there's value in the process, and people have learning, have a good experience, people enlarge their networks, people learn new tools and meet new people. Otherwise, you could reframe it not as a prize challenge, but as a mutually supportive challenge.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think so. I think that there's many models and forms of crowdsourcing. The prize one gets a lot of coverage because because we love competitions, we love talking about them. We've invented professional sports, so we can watch people win and lose all the time. There's something about it that's just taps into our human nature. But there's lots of models, and collaborative crowdsourcing is something that I think is really important and useful. But the other thing I would add is that when something's new and unfamiliar, we question and challenge it, which by the way we should, absolutely. But we need to map it to the world around us if we want to understand, right? So, for example, college applications, there's winners and losers there. Job interviews, you don't get paid to do a job interview, and there's lots of losers in job interviews. The world is full of these dynamics, and they exist because they work. Are they ideal? Are they perfect? No, I actually think that the college application process is very broken. I'm sure a lot of people agree, but it's the way the world works. So you have to respect how things work, that they work, and work with work with reality. At least if you want to make a difference in the world, right? In my humble opinion. So, new approaches, new technologies, new methods should definitely be questioned and challenged as well. But it's important that we look at what the net benefit is of these things and balance them off. Because if we just reject everything for the sake of the negatives, we're going to get stuck. And back to the trending towards Star Trek, trending towards 1984. Well, those that want to use technology to centralize don't care. So if those that are trying to do technology for good get stopped because their solution isn't perfect, because there's some imperfect elements, then we've created an asymmetric situation, which is very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And that's what concerns me about those thoughts. That being said, I feel very responsible to make sure that crowdsourcing is rewarding and helps people move forward at many levels. And that's something I could drill down into later in the Q&A. But let's let Tim and Kristen chime in. So Tim, you're up.
Yeah, I'll go briefly here, Kristen. I would just say, yet too, we've taken a different approach to the crowd, and we've developed what we call a curated crowd for exactly this reason. To the 99 who lost, motivated in a pure crowd. So with the curated crowd, we really aim at a couple of things. The first is only ask the solvers, the solution providers, to input as much effort as is being received back as is being matched by the large company. And that's inherently, that's just structurally easy in our approach to the world. And then secondly, we've developed what we call bands of appropriateness. And as we engage a startup or an innovative new small company with a large company, I don't know, we've done this 25 or 30,000 times now. We've built a set of rules and guidelines for what are appropriate things for the large co to ask of the small co at any given moment through the process, and vice versa. And those bands of appropriateness help a lot with this sour taste in the mouth of the losers.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Mindful of time, Kristen, over to you.
Yeah, just very quickly, because I know Tim and I still have yet to go. I often say to clients that innovation is not like second grade softball. Everyone doesn't get a trophy. When we're sitting in the boardroom, everyone doesn't expect their ideas to get implemented. So we shouldn't expect that. And that's frankly what drives the best ideas to the surface. And comment just to the questions about what do we do with everyone else, I would say the best approach to take is to think about it in terms of the challenge design and upfront think proactively about how you can leverage the other submissions. So if only 3 are going to get the funding, how else can we connect those submitters with other organizations that can sponsor them or other groups that can help further develop them out? So I think a lot of that needs to be done proactively by the people that are initiating those. And that's where I see the most value coming out of different types of initiatives, is when you aren't just looking at the top sort of winner, so to speak.
If I just come back briefly on that, thank you, Kristen. That's brilliant. That's dead right. I think we could also encourage partnerships and joint proposals a lot more than we do. And explore that uncomfortable tension between collaboration and competition in a more interesting way. So no one has a complete solution, right? So how can we help people put the jigsaw together to provide a complete solution, and then you get more winners.
Yep, and progress, which is really important. Okay, great. Well, we are running short on time, so Kristen, it's your turn. Your time to shine.
All right. Let me share my screen. So I am with a company called Bright Idea, and we are an idea and innovation management platform. And for the last 20 years, we have been reaching out to organizations to really drive idea management as well as innovation management, and to really create an environment where the best ideas win. This is what our mission is to ensure that the ideas that bring value, that bring impact to the world, have an opportunity to basically bubble up to the surface. So connecting directly back to the conversation that we're having. And I love this quote from our CEO, innovation is too important to be left to chance. And I think our conversation today is really perfectly representative of that. And for the last 20 years, we've had a great opportunity to work with an amazing ecosystem of customers. And just quickly myself, I've been with Bright Idea for over 8 years. I've been in the innovation space for about 15 years. Love what I do. I have just a tremendously wonderful position. What I'd like to actually show is a couple of examples of some of the sustainability that have been run by our clients. And just for background, clients run innovation challenges on our platform, both that are internal, so trying to make sure that we're gaining and benefiting from the mind share of the employees within our own companies, as well as externally. And so I'm going to go pretty far back for this first one, just because I think it was so important, and I think GE was really stepping out there and trying to be really a significant leader here in the space. So this was back in 2010. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with GE's Eco-Imagination program. It's an overall business strategy, as well as a strategy around sustainability and protecting the environment. And I think the theme that comes to the surface with this particular example is this is what can happen when organizations go big. Obviously, GE has the opportunity to invest quite a bit of funding into this, but they also partnered with 4 venture capital firms to make this particular challenge happen. And it was 5 years into their Eco-Imagination program, and it was one of the ways that they were really starting to build partnerships with other companies, with the general public, with various funders. And the result of that was pretty powerful, with almost 4,000 ideas, 80,000 comments, and they were able to take 12 projects and actually provide $55 million of funding for them. So a really significant step here. And I think to what David was saying, it's a good example of seeing partnerships across different industries, across funders as well as corporations. And then the other one I think is just a fantastic example of partnerships in the best possible sense. So the Next Coalition was actually started by 4 of our clients: Black & Veatch, DPR, Haskell and McCarthy. They are all major construction companies, leaders in their space, and they're competitors. And when COVID-19 hit, they gathered together, and their initial purpose was to bring out solutions that could help keep their employees safe. These are people that were certainly considered essential employees. They're literally building the infrastructure of our world. So they needed to be out there continuing to do what they needed to do, but they needed to do it in a safe way. And so that's how this formed. And because that was successful, they have continued on. They've expanded their partnership to other companies within the construction and also power space. And so now they are running another initiative that's focused on safety and sustainability. And it makes me very proud to be a part of this community with our clients, to see what they can do with the platform, with the community, with crowdsourcing, and now with one another. So with that, I will pause and take questions and chat with the panel.
That's great, Kristen. Thank you for that. We are going to jump straight to Tim because we are running short on time. And if Tim is a master of brevity, then we'll have a little bit of time for some Q&A. Assuming Tim didn't take a bathroom break. Oh, there you are.
Good. I'm pretty good at brevity, but I don't think I'm that good, Christian. Just briefly here.
Well, Tim, you
Get to we are exactly. And I'm very happy to be on that horse. Thank you much for having me. Sorry, Kristen, we weren't able to engage more. You had a couple of really interesting ideas, themes that would be fun to pursue in detail. Really briefly, in maybe 2 minutes here, we are technology scouts. So we have developed what we call a curated crowd. We're a company, cross-industry, cross-geography, work pretty hard at our networks, have built a team that does extremely well at this open innovation work. And we work pretty hard to partner with our clients to move them ahead. The curated crowd, we think, is different than I would call standard crowds, HeroX, 100% open types of crowds, in 6 ways. And I just don't have time today to get into the details on this, but we've thought a lot about this over 20 years. As Christian and I have discussed previously, we're not positing that the Yet2 curated crowd is better. Rather, it's just different. It has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. And actually, a lot of the time, I think Christian and Yet2 might agree, there's actually lots of room for complementarity there. We think we can make prize challenges a lot smarter and a lot more impactful, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
And there are a couple examples here. In next round, some other day, happy to drill into detail on those. We do a ton of work in sustainability. I don't know if we're quite at half of all of our briefs yet, as David is, but it's definitely way up there. These are just 3 examples. As well, this is a problem we're working on at the moment. Apparently, some large number, like 80 or 90% of all of the waste in the oceans today comes from 7 rivers in Southeast Asia. And what's going into those rivers is these plastic sachets, which are ubiquitous in economies where people can't afford to buy bigger chunks of goods. And so you have these sachets, which are probably half of the ocean waste all by themselves. And if you could design a biodegradable version of those, that would in one fell swoop solve a lot of the ocean contamination issues in the world. So that's a project we're working on right now, and a nice example of a curated crowd where we're not just seeking broad ideas about how you could go biodegradable, but rather we found a couple of approaches, and how do we scale those with the right commercial partners. So with that, Christian, I'll yield back.
I would call that brief, so good job. We've got, I mean, we're just on time, but Epi, I know you wanted to have a mixing session as well, but do we want to cover some questions, or what would you like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some questions here that we can just go over. If we can pick some of it and just open to everybody. I'll have everybody come in and review, so that way everyone is here. And yeah, let's do that. So Clive, do we have any new question that we can pick from here and direct it to someone?
Hi. Yes. I mean, there's been a bit of dialogue been going on through chat as well, but there was an interesting comment that David sent through to me about the impact of the challenges that were meant to be felt externally also had an effect internally in company in employee workforces, changing their perceptions of the type of business that they worked for, which was an added benefit, I think, for some of these challenge providers.
Yes, that's right. It's a big public thing, having a crowdsourced challenge if you're in a company, and it's very nerve-wracking for a lot of people to expose their weaknesses and their lack of competence so publicly. If you're forgive me being a bit cynical, but it's also very energizing to look at that and feel proud of your company, that it is open, and in effect to see it from the outside. And that's the UBS case. It's taken 5 years for a significant, I think, culture shift to occur, and with Lego as well. I'm sure crowdsourcing was part of that re-evaluation of the place we work in.
There's been a couple of comments. This is for any of the panelists. There's a couple of comments from attendees saying that they think that the biggest challenge is actually taking some of the findings from these challenges and the solutions that are put forward, and taking them into a much wider mass market. Just a point from me, I mean, all of you guys with your different platforms and networks of people, and it's all so weighted towards the high levels of tertiary education, have massive numbers of people with master's degrees and what have you. And it's a view of mine, it gets to the gig economy, and people at that kind of level have got very different views about things than other gig economy workers who are like Uber drivers and Deliveroo riders. And this bit about trying to get through some of these messages through to people who up to now are beginning to feel that the technology is kind of ignoring them. They're not feeling at all embraced and brought into any of this. So whilst the prize challenges are coming up with great solutions, do any of you yet feel that there's a reason to have to take the explanation of these solutions to wider audiences to get more of that kind of just mass groundswell of support, or at least recognition that it's going on?
Well, yeah, if I may, actually, we at Open Innovability, we run different kind of challenges. So some of them are open really to anyone, so to individuals or to startup, and they are at the same level. But in that case, the reward will be an economic reward, okay? But we don't do differences between startups or individuals. Other challenges are dedicated to organizations because we want someone who can scale with up the solution. But we really get this point. And actually, at the beginning, when only 3 years ago we developed the platform, we were thinking on how can we involve who doesn't have an internet connection or a computer, because our platforms are digital. So we, of course, we are going into the digitalization, but how many ideas we cannot reach because of the technology? And this is something that actually at the moment we didn't solve yet.
I guess I would, Clive, I'd chime in from Yet2's side. We're completely agnostic about your level of education. If you have a good solution to our client's problem, we're going to be pretty excited about it.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions?
That's while we're waiting, Sarah. That is a tough question. I stole an idea with pride from IDEO, and in terms of getting people involved from remote communities, for example, that are digitally not enabled. You can use local leaders. You can use ethnography. You can use other sort of ways of having them represented. We're looking at a particular challenge in the Middle East at the moment, which is for various reasons I won't go into, quite hard to get hold of the people that you need to. But using intermediaries and or classic research techniques really helps. If you make the effort to do that, it works.
Great. Yes, I think this was really awesome. Looking forward to do at least one more this year around this topic. I think next one that we can do, we were just talking about this, doing more like collaborative, where we can pretty much break the whole entire audience into groups and do that in a way that everyone can have a better hands-on in terms of what and how we can create this space better for and more inclusive for people. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for tonight, from the panelists and Christian for being here and presenting and moderating the panel. I'd like to thank everybody for attending this crowd sessions. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. We would like to give like 5 minutes for networking here, so you can just chat with each other, look at the feed here. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again soon. We have next event. It's going to be on April 30th. We're talking about the remote working and freelancing world. That will be under Bold Series. Until then, guys, thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you, Epi.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.